Good. I was going to ask you, I was going to call you today anyway. When are you thinking should come out with?
Let me coordinate that with Landon as far as when he thinks he'll have the crates done. So we're making the Giants live stones. We're gonna make 10 stones and 2 sets. The set's gonna include, well, 120, 140, 160, 180, and 200. Yeah, I'm out here at my parents' house. It's kind of cool to be out here, and it's the old stomping grounds where, I made my first stone. So we've got 3 scales set up. What do we have here? About 30 pounds of lead suspended in the center of the stone. So that's going to help bring a normal stone up to, normally it would weigh about 230, 240, and going to have it weigh slightly over 260. And over here's what the lead insert looks like. I just pour like 10-pound, basically 10-pound pucks, and wire them together. That way I can kind of add a little bit more weight if I need to. I'm about ready to take these stones out of the molds just to see what it looks like and see if I have to do any patching, which I probably will, because normally have to on every stone. Also, what I do is a simple little trick. Once you get the stone off the scale, it may weigh a little bit differently than what the scale tells you when you're making it. So once I get everything filled up, I'll just push in a styrofoam cup like that. And I'll let the stone set up with the styrofoam cup in there. And then once it's set up, I pull that cup out and I've got a hole. So with that hole, I can fill it up with extra concrete if the weight's just about right. And if I need to put lead shot in there, I can do that too and plug it, mix the lead shot with the concrete to calibrate it. So I call these my calibration holes. They work really well. So I just put that handy wrap on there. You'll see it's a lot easier to clean up because I don't have to clean up the mold. It's already clean underneath the handy wrap. Yeah, this is an old mold. This is one of the first molds I ever made. Gosh, I'm sure I've made it, I don't know, maybe 50 stones with this. Yeah. Okay, what I'll do here is I have a pad for this stone to drop on. And inside here is sand. So next what I'll do is I'll just roll my mold over, take my tap stick. Okay, not too bad really. We've got what I call bug holes in it, but those are going to patch up real nicely. Yeah, that'll be good. And this one has a little insert in it, a lightning insert. Let's cut the knot off so we can take the mold apart. Looks really nice. So I'll go through and I'll patch all these. I'll rub patch all over it and make that look real good. So this we used maximum strength concrete. In 1 week it goes to about 5,500 PSI. And in about 28 days it goes to 6,500 PSI. So its set time is really good because I can take this out of the mold in about 3 hours or so. It's sat here overnight. So it'll continue to cure outside of the mold. We'll keep it wet so it kind of goes into a slow cure. Anyway, I'll set that to the side and we'll get on to the next one, see what it looks like. This is a 21 inch and it should be 352. But I got the calibration hole, so if we need to add weight, we can. Also have a little tiny insert in here, a little 6-inch insert, because if not, it would weigh, maybe 360, something like that, right around there. So anyway, we'll take her off and see how it looks. It looks pretty good. It's got some larger holes here, which I'll patch. Like I said, our patch is really, really strong stuff. You have to use good patch, because if not, when the guys use tacky, I have a tendency to pull off the patch if it's not strong. Let's see what the top looks like. Yeah, that's what we like to see. Nice, smooth top stone. That one looks good. So this one should weigh 120 kilograms or 264. It's an 18 inch, so this would be the first one that they would lift, the smallest one. And in this one, I've got 30 pounds of lead hanging in there. So we just suspended it in there. And there we go, I just took it out. Now I can take this ladder off. Ladders work really well to suspend insert. That, or if you have a super heavy one, sometimes we use hydraulic lifts for motors. That works real well too. It's easier for me to pull the tape off when it's on the scale. So if I try to take this mold off, this little bit of concrete here, you can see that it wouldn't come off because this concrete's trapping it on. That would have to break in order for the mold to come off. One time I had a customer call me and they said they couldn't get the top of the mold off. It's like, man, you should. It shouldn't be that hard to remove. And I said, hey, why don't you try this? Check this. Check the pore hole. See if you have any concrete that's layered over top of the pore hole. And he called me back and said, sure enough, he did. He removed it and the mold came right off.
I've got the finish rope wrapping one log and then big stretch, and then these are done.
Okay.
So I'm just going to keep working unless I hear from you, and then I'll head over.
Okay. Sounds good, buddy. Thank you. Okay, great. It's 266. It's awesome. Came in at 266. I want it to be around 264. So that's good because I know it's going to lose some weight. So I'm really happy with that. 6. Exclamation point. So because we're on a roll, no pun intended, we'll continue on. So I wanted that to weigh 352. It weighs 353.78. Yeah, again, I'm happy because I know it's going to lose a little bit of weight. I'll plug that hole. I don't need to add any lead. It'll be about maybe 2 pounds worth of concrete. It should cure out to be the right weight. So I got to make another one this weight and weigh it exactly the same. So that's a challenge, is trying to get 2 stones to weigh the same. And that's why I have that calibration hole. So what I'm doing now is I just took that stone out. I'm just getting rid of any of the concrete residue that was left on the mold. So I'll just remove that. And you can just use light sandpaper. And I like to clean these up as soon as, or soon after, like I take the stone out of the mold, because this concrete is not really set up on that mold. If you wait for a while, it becomes more difficult to remove it. And I'm just gonna prep it for the next stone. And with this one, we're using a lead insert inside. Say we made maybe 20 stones out of this mold so far. Okay, so yeah, this one's ready to roll. No, it's not. I gotta put the insert in next. So we want that in the center. So I marked half of this, 9 inches up, flag this, put the flag on there. So I know basically this will be inside the mold, and if concrete, I want this to be right on the outside of the mold where the pore hole is, right? So I know that's set inside, halfway. Yippers. How we do her. Okay. There's that. Okay, man, those fit together perfect. Pumped. I really just like playing in the mud. Always have. Playing in the mud, playing in dumpsters. When I was a kid, I used to collect beer cans and I'd get in dumpsters to find my beer cans. Once we were on our way to Florida, we stopped at a roadside rest, and I would always get different beer cans, find different ones. Further away from home, thought, man, I'll find some awesome beer cans. So I got into the dumpster. While everybody just took a break or used the restroom, I just went straight for the dumpster. Didn't tell anybody I was going in the dumpster, and they all got back in the station wagon except for me. Dad, I guess, said, Steve, where's Steve? Then all he saw was cans flying out of a dumpster, because I would just find them and I would chuck them right out, and I was in a hurry, so there's one can after another, and he said all he saw were these cans just like flying out of the dumpster. And then I heard, Steve, get over here now. So yeah, I was in the doghouse, but I found some good cans. Okay, that looks good. I'll just wrap her up. Okay. I gotta adjust this inside the mold, and I'll pull the insert up until I see the flag. So right about there is where I need to adjust it. So take this here, pull this up a little bit more, down a little bit. about right there. Take this, wrap it around. And you want that to hang right in the center, so you got to adjust the mold so it's hanging dead center. It looks good. Time to prep the next mold. This is a 20-inch. We're gonna make it weigh slightly over 300 pounds, 308. So what I'm doing is just centering that insert inside the center of the stone. Now I'm tying the knot off, underside, just like this. So I drilled a little hole in the mold. And now I'm just double checking. I gotta make an adjustment. A lot of times I'll have like a fender washer, which is a big washer with a small hole. And I'll have that fender washer underneath that knot between the mold and the knot. What I don't want is that I don't want that knot to pull through or stretch any more than it should. So I'm just gonna get a piece of wire just like that. And that'll help keep it from pulling through. And then I will tape that on like that. So I know nothing funky is gonna happen. When I first did this, I didn't make that knot quite large enough. It becomes pretty, I guess the insert becomes pretty buoyant inside concrete, just like it would in water, it's gonna float up. So you just don't want it to pop that knot out. So that's pretty much in center. That looks good. I am gonna go ahead and use our standard silicone as a mold release in this one again. Yep, here's the boss. That's a rig job if I've ever seen one. That hurt you?
No. Keep coming. Left more. Harder left. Okay.
So we rented this off of Carroll Construction Supply in Columbus, Ohio. A guy named Tony there helped us out. He was very, very helpful. We're the first ones to rent it, so we're excited to kick it into gear and see how well it works. Basically a miniature concrete plant. We just dump the concrete, the dry mix in the hopper, and we can adjust the water control right here depending on what kind of slump you want, or how wet or how dry you want the mix. You hook up a hose to it, and then you adjust the nozzle, and the water comes out of these nozzles here, and then it mixes with the dry mix, and then you've got basically the auger that helps it mix, and then just it's going to dump right into the mold. We'll kind of dial in the right mix and make sure everything's good. Let's fire her up. That's dialed in really well there. Okay. Kick it off real quick. Now I'll grab that insert, make sure it's floating in the center. Looks good. Okay, we got it all filled up now, and what I'm going to do is just put this cup down in the hole. You can trap it down with, you got a 10-pound plate. In this case, I'm just using a big piece of lead. And I'll trap it right down in like that. And then that way, the concrete's going to set up.
Back up. Okay. Hold the bucket under it real quick.
Yeah.
Let's clear out what's.
Several days later, now we're going to patch these stones. When I say patch, I'm just filling up those bug holes like that. So it'll be like all one pretty smooth surface. First thing I do is I just get the stone wet, which I've already hosed it off. I'm just going to get it wet again. This helps the patch stick. And just get it wet like that. Try to get all the holes filled or wet. Just helps the bond. And where the parting seam is, I'll get that wet too. Next, I've got some patch mixed up that I think I could probably use some more. A little bit of water. Next, I'll just kind of build it up on the top. And I just start working it in. Basically going to rub this on most of the stone on the top because we don't have hardly any bug holes up here. I don't need a whole lot of patch up there. Just going to kind of rub it in, blend it in a little bit. Then after this, I'm just going to take my shirt, old t-shirt, or a sponge. Got a sponge right here. Anything, just kind of wipe it down. Just get it wet. And now I'm going to wash it off. So take a look at this. What I'm doing is I have patch on there and I've got it built up on the bug holes. See how it's built up right there? This right here is more of a dry mix. It's going to be real strong. And I'll just go ahead and sand that off. And I'll just use a kind of a wore out flap disc because I don't want to like grind into the stone. So all I want to do is take off the top patch and leave the rest of the patch inside the bug hole. I'll go ahead and I'll sand the whole thing down with like a Scotch Brite sander on my angle grinder, and that'll give it this sort of look here. So it'll give it kind of a polished look. What I'm trying to get off is just this gray powdery stuff on the surface of the stone. Trying to get that off. So always wear safety glasses, right? Go ahead and seal this one. Just get your rag wet. You're just basically almost like you're dusting the stone. Every stone's a little bit different. So we got this little line here. It's almost like a little rust line for some reason, and a little triangular piece right here. Yeah, it is fun to see how like each one turns out differently. That's what's cool about making Atlas stones. You're never going to have one that's just like the same. So that surface is going to be really clean and it's not going to be dusty. So people will look at this and think, oh wow, that's a really slick stone. If you try to put something on it that's sticky, like a sticker, that sticker is going to stick much better than what it would as if there was dust on there. That's kind of like the way it works. And then once tacky gets on there, tacky's going to stick really well. Sometimes it sticks better to the stone than it does to the athlete. But after you get tacky on there, after maybe a competition or two, you can spread tacky on there. You can get a flap disc, like an old wore out flap disc. I happen to have a grinder that's from an old buffer. It's basically from like the 70s that my dad got me from an auction. And I use that sucker because it'll just go and go and go with the big buffing pad, and the buffing pad has tacky all over it. By the process of just basically waxing that tacky on, that works really well too. I'm not going to do it for these stones here because they're going to travel to Vegas, and in the process of traveling, we don't want that tacky to pick up dust or dirt, have them be really dirty by the time they get there. It's best to do that on site if you're going to tacky it like that. You know, it gives it a little bit of a grip, so you have a little bit of traction. But the guys are going to wear tacky. They should stick, yeah, real well to these. Looks so pretty. Handsome looking stone. For the next 60 seconds. You could build this like 3 times as heavy if we wanted. Make that the goal.
It's more dramatic each time.
It's so much fun. Okay. That one? You want to put the... That does make it strong, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's fun to like do stuff like not stuff like that, but just like little things.